A very warm welcome, dear students. Welcome to the second audio note, and these audio notes will help you stay in touch with law till your board exams. So, in the first audio note, we had discussed what is the meaning of an agreement, when does it become a contract, and I received many requests to do these notes in English. So, this lecture is going to be in English, and I think that it is better that you listen in English so that you can read properly, understand the theory, and you can also write in English. If you want to write the paper in English, it is important that you listen. The medium of communication, the learning should be in English only. So, this will benefit most of the students who are giving their exam in either May or November 23 attempt. And let us discuss in today's lecture the essential elements of a valid contract. I'm not going to discuss all the essential elements today. We are going to break it in small parts because I know it is not possible for you to listen to lengthy audio notes. So we are keeping the duration to maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and that is the time which you need to invest every day. Even though you are preparing for your board exams, I would advise you to at least devote 10 to 15 minutes daily for these audio lectures so that you can stay in touch with the subject till your board exam. A similar concept is followed in our podcast revision lectures, which you can purchase from my website capreetiaggarwal.com. In those podcast lectures, we have discussed section numbers in a story format, all the head points, and those podcast lectures will help you to memorize, to learn those section numbers as well as head points so that you can write them well in exam. Today I have uploaded a video on YouTube where we are in conversation with all the students who have scored exemption in December 22 attempts. So I will leave a link of that video. Do watch that video to score excellent marks in your exam. Alright, so let us begin today's discussion. We are going to discuss few essential elements of a valid contract. These are my notes for CA Foundation. It is my textbook available on my website capreetiaggarwal.com. So, what are the essential elements of a valid contract? Last time we discussed what is offer, what is acceptance, what is consideration. We just discuss. We didn't discuss those terms in detail, but we just introduced those terms. Intention to create legal relation. What is an agreement? When does it become a contract? So let us continue our discussion. Now, to make a valid contract, I need two parties. One who gives the offer, another person to whom the offer is given. You can't give the offer to yourself. You can't enter into contract with yourself. So two distinct means different parties are required to form a valid contract because one cannot enter into contract with himself. In case a question is asked on what are the essential elements of a valid contract, you need to mention all the 10 points which you will find in my notes, and you can also give examples, but very rarely a question is asked on writing all the essential elements of a valid contract. The next essential element is that there must be proper offer and acceptance. Offer is the starting point of contract. No offer, no acceptance, no contract. So first thing that I require is that there must be proper offer, and this offer must be properly communicated to the अदर पार्टी. अरे सामने वाली पार्टी को ऑफ़र के बारे में पता चलेगा तभी तो वो एक्सेप्ट करेगा ना. नाउ इफ़ आई मेंटली थिंक ऑफ सम ऑफर, can I say that yes, it is in my mind, I wanted to give you an offer, let's enter into a contract? No, you will have to communicate that offer to the other person. And how will you communicate this offer? You can do it by words or in writing or a combination of both. There are various ways. Even action sometimes is used to give offer. Your offer can be communicated through actions. So yes, offer can be given either orally or in writing or through our actions. Just like offer, acceptance must also be properly communicated. मैंने मेरे मन में सोच लिया कि हाँ मुझे एक्सेप्ट करना है, और आई रोट अ लेटर एंड आई केप्ट इट इन माई ड्रॉर, आई फॉरगॉट टू पोस्ट इट. कैन आई कॉल इट एज अ वैलिड एक्सेप्टेंस? नो. Proper offer and acceptance. Offer must be communicated, acceptance must also be communicated. Okay, what are the elements that I need to make a valid contract? The first element is offer, second is acceptance, and the third element is enforceability. What is the meaning of enforceability? Enforceability means intention to sue, intention to file a case. If one party defaults, other party can take action. In case of business or commercial agreements, we assume that parties have intention to create legal relation. You need not agree on this separately. But in case of social or domestic agreements, the usual presumption is that parties do not intend to create legal relation. The courts have left the parties to solve the problems on their own. Imagine that you have made promise to your sister or your brother or your mother and you don't fulfill that promise. Can they take action against you? No, because at the time of entering into contract, they never had any intention to take or create legal relation. Same applies to friends. You have entered into contract with a friend promising to bring his book the next day and then you forgot. Can he take action against you? No, because you never showed any intention of creating legal relation at the time of entering into that agreement. There is one very interesting case law, Balfour versus Balfour. Now, Mr. Balfour and Mrs. Balfour, they were enjoying a holiday in London when suddenly Mr. Balfour was called back to his place of work in Sri Lanka. He asked Mrs. Balfour to pack her bags, but Mrs. Balfour said that I have developed arthritis. Arthritis means severe knee pain, joint pains. The doctor has advised me not to travel, and the jungle climate of Sri Lanka is not suitable for my condition, so I can't travel. Mr. Balfour said that I need to go back to my workplace, so you stay in London. But she said that I don't have money. So he promised to pay her £30 per month for her maintenance. He then left for Sri Lanka. He promised to pay, but he failed to send the money. He failed to keep his promise. Mrs. Balfour filed a case against her husband. What do you think, students? Would she have won the case or lost the case? She would have definitely lost the case because it is a domestic agreement. At the time of entering into the agreement, they never had intention to create legal relation. So this being a domestic agreement, the enforceability is not assumed in this case, and Mrs. Balfour lost the case. But what if Mrs. Balfour had made this agreement in writing, thus showing intention to create legal relation? Then in that case, she would have won the case. The next essential element is that consent must be free. कोई ज़ोर ज़बरदस्ती नहीं होनी चाहिए. मैंने अपनी मर्ज़ी से कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किया है. I must enter into contract at my own free will. Consent is defined under section 13 and free consent is defined under section 14. Consent means that parties must agree upon the same thing in the same sense. Consensus ad idem. When is consent not free? Consent is not free when it is caused by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, mistake. Coercion, section 15, undue influence, section 16, fraud, section 17, misrepresentation 18, and mistake 20. So when the contract is caused by these factors, then in that case it will not be a valid contract. So when consent is obtained in this manner, it is not free consent and the contract will not be a valid contract. Now, what is the meaning of coercion? Coercion is defined under section 15. Here, what you can see is not the definition. We will study that in unit 3. This is just a basic meaning of coercion because we are writing the essential elements. You are not expected to write the definition because it is very lengthy. You just write the meaning of coercion. What are the two keywords of coercion? Coercion means there is some kind of threat or physical force is used to cause the other person to enter into contract. So in case of coercion, there is some kind of threat or physical force which is used to cause the other person to enter into contract. So X is threatening to kill Y if Y doesn't sell his house to X. He is using coercion. Consent is not free consent. Yes, I know you must have studied that this is avoidable contract, but for students who are not aware of what is avoidable contract, I am not mentioning that term now. Then we have undue influence, section 16. Undue influence means there is some kind of moral or mental pressure. See, in the earlier case, physical force was used. But here we are using some kind of moral or mental pressure between the parties whose relations are such that one party is in a position to dominate the will of the other party and he uses that position to obtain unfair advantage. Here relation does not mean that there should be blood relation. Relation means any kind of relation by which I can influence the other person. In the above case, in case of coercion, no kind of relation was required. But here, undue influence, there is some kind of relation by which one party is in the dominating position and he uses that position to obtain unfair advantage. So there are various examples wherein we assume that there can be undue influence, like in case of doctor and patient, parent and child, principal and temporary teacher. So there are these spiritual advisor and devotee. There are these cases wherein we assume that yes, there can be undue influence. Doctor influences a patient to buy a medicine for 25,000 rupees, whereas nothing had happened to that patient. He was perfectly fine. This is nothing but undue influence, because we get scared. We believe what the doctor asks, what the doctor says. So it is very easy to influence such persons. It is very easy for a doctor to influence patients. Then in the third case, we have fraud. Section 17 defines fraud as it is a false representation. That is a keyword. It is a false representation of what? Of fact made willfully. Willfully is the next keyword. With an intention to cheat or to deceive the other party. So I am saying something which is false. I know what I am saying is false. I am doing it willfully with the intention of cheating or deceiving the other party. My intention is to cheat or to deceive the other party. This is fraud. So in case of fraud, what are the keywords? There is false representation. Representation means you are saying something. False means you know it is not correct. You're doing it willfully, knowingly. What is your intention? To cheat or deceive the other party. So A sells the Taj Mahal to B, claiming that it belongs to him, and B pays 50 lakhs to buy it. This is fraud. You can't say that ma'am, B was foolish enough to buy it. He should have known. But the facts were represented to him in such a manner that he believed in them and he was cheated. This is fraud. Then we have misrepresentation. Section 18. So misrepresentation means false representation of facts, but here it is innocently, without any intention to cheat or to deceive the other party. What is the difference between fraud and misrepresentation? In case of fraud, I am giving false information willfully, knowingly, with an intention to cheat the other party. But in case of misrepresentation, yes, I am saying something which is false, but it is made innocently. I never had the intention to cheat the other party. Yes, there is some false statement, but I am making it innocently. I am not even aware that what I am saying is false. I think it is true. I believe it to be true. That is misrepresentation. So here S is the owner of a sweet mart. Okay. C, a customer requests him for sugarless sweets. Now sugarless means sugar free, but S thought sugarless means sweets containing less sugar. So he gave sweets containing less sugar to C, and C had acute diabetes. He consumed the sweets and he fell ill. So is S to be blamed? Did he do it on purpose? No, he very innocently thought that sugar less means less sugar, and he gave sugar-free sweets. So here it is just a case of misrepresentation, because there was no intention to cheat, there was no intention to deceive the other party. Yes, we gave false information, but innocently. We were not even aware that what we are saying is false. In fact, we believed it to be true. We thought what we are saying is true. That is misrepresentation. Then we have the concept of mistake. So mistake is discussed under section 20. Now mistake means there is an erroneous belief concerning something. कुछ समझने में गलती हो गई. X agrees to sell his horse to Y for 10,000 rupees, but unknown to both the parties, the horse had already died in the stable. Now this agreement is not valid. It is void, as there is mistake of subject matter. The very purpose for which we are entering into contract, that subject matter is only not there. The horse is not alive. It's of no use to enter into this contract. The agreement is not valid. Now, X wants to buy all the horses of... X is the owner of 3 horses. Y tells him that I want to buy all your horses. Now, Y thought that X owned only 2 horses. So, X is the owner of 3 horses. Y thinks that X owns only 2 horses. So Y tells X, I want to buy all your horses. Now what will happen at the time of delivery? X will deliver 3 horses, whereas Y requires only 2 horses. Are they agreeing upon the same quantity in the same sense? No, there is mistake as to the quantity of the subject matter it's not a valid contract. They have not consented on the same number. It's not free consent. The contract will not be a valid contract. Again, it will be a void agreement. So I'm using these words considering that you know about them, but what is void? It is the opposite of valid, in case you're not aware. So students, this was mistake. Now many students get confused between misrepresentation and mistake. Ma'am, how to distinguish between misrepresentation and mistake? How to identify whether it is misrepresentation or mistake? Now pay attention. So when the person is saying something, okay, when he's saying something which is false but he is not aware of it, that is misrepresentation. But when the parties on their own understand some false facts, then that is mistake. Okay, it is an erroneous belief concerning something. They both believe, nobody is saying anything, they both believe, that is mistake. So with this we come to an end of today's session, and I hope you enjoyed the session. The aim is to keep you in touch with the subject. I'm sure you're busy preparing for a board exam, but whatever you have studied should be remembered as well. Yes or no? Whatever you had studied, whatever effort you have put for law, you should remember that even after your board exam. So these audio notes will help you. Share it with your friends. Ask them to subscribe to the Telegram channel so that many of them can benefit from these audio notes. In case you wish to purchase books, test series, podcast lectures, you can visit my website capreetiaggarwal.com, and in the next lecture I will continue with the essential elements of a valid contract. So I'll see you there.